I never imagined that a single letter could destroy everything I believed about my family. But when I opened that envelope hidden in the attic, I discovered a secret buried for decades. A secret about who I really am. And the scariest part, this letter had been waiting for me for over 30 years. As if someone knew that one day I would be ready for the truth. 3 months ago, my life was completely normal. I was 32 years old, had a stable job, a family I thought I knew perfectly. My grandmother had passed away the year before. A sweet, reserved woman who always avoided talking about the past. I thought that was normal, you know how it is, many elderly people prefer to live in the present. But there was something about her. A sadness in her eyes when she looked at me. As if she carried a weight she could never share. I never imagined that weight would become mine too. My mom, the woman who raised me, asked me to clean out Grandma's attic. "It's time to move forward," she said. But her voice trembled when she said it. At the time I didn't understand why. Now I understand perfectly. It was a Saturday afternoon. Rainy, cold, the kind that makes you want to stay under the covers. But I had promised my mom I would do this. When I climbed up that old wooden ladder to the attic, it was like entering a time capsule. Decades of memories piled up in damp cardboard boxes, furniture covered with white sheets. The smell of mildew and lavender, my grandmother's perfume, still hung in the air. And man, it gave me a tightness in my chest. I spent about 2-3 hours cataloging everything. Old clothes, books with yellowed pages, knickknacks that only make sense to those who lived through that era. Until I found a box that was different from the others. This box wasn't dusty like the rest. It was hidden, you know. Like, deliberately placed behind a heavy trunk, as if someone didn't want it to be found easily. But it also wasn't locked. As if it was waiting for the right moment. When I opened it, I found photographs I had never seen in my life. My grandmother young, with a radiant smile I didn't know. She had always been so serious with me. There was a man next to her who wasn't my grandfather. And a child, a beautiful girl with bright eyes. I didn't know that child. I didn't recognize anyone except my grandmother. And that made me uneasy. That's when I saw it. At the bottom of the box, held with an old brittle rubber band, was a yellowed envelope, sealed. With red wax, antique, the kind you only see in movies. And in the center of the envelope, written in a shaky, faded handwriting, was my full name. My heart started beating faster. I looked around the empty attic, as if someone were watching me. Why would there be a letter with my name, sealed for decades, hidden in my grandmother's attic? My grandmother never mentioned this. My mom never said anything. My dad always deflected when I asked about family history. Did they know? I held the envelope up to the light of the only lamp in the attic. I tried to see something through the thick paper. Nothing. I could take it to my mom. Ask before opening it. But something inside me whispered, if they wanted you to know, they would have told you. I needed to know. I deserved to know. I opened the envelope carefully, as if it could disintegrate in my hands. The wax broke into small pieces that fell to the wooden floor. Inside, a single sheet of paper, perfectly folded. The blue ink was still surprisingly legible. And then I started reading. My dear granddaughter. Granddaughter. My grandmother always called me my love or by my name. Never granddaughter so formally. I continued reading. My name is Helena. Helena. A name I had never heard in my entire life. Never mentioned at family gatherings. Never appeared on school family trees. Never. And I am your biological grandmother. I stopped reading. I read that sentence again. And again. Biological grandmother. That meant that the woman I buried a year ago, the woman who gave me candy in secret, who taught me to make bread, who slept next to me when I had nightmares, wasn't my blood grandmother? Helena explained in the letter that she had lived apart from the family for over 3 decades. That there had been a painful separation, imposed decisions, words that could never be taken back. She wrote, I was forbidden from knowing you. Prevented from being present at your birthday, your graduation, every moment of your life. Not by my choice, but by decisions that were made to protect everyone. Protect from what? From whom? Helena described old family conflicts, resentments, a fight that started small and grew until it became an unbridgeable chasm. She mentioned false accusations, misunderstandings that were never clarified, and too much pride on both sides. And then she wrote something that froze me. The woman you call mother. She is not your biological mother. She is my daughter-in-law. And there's a reason you never knew this. I dropped the letter. My hands were shaking so much I couldn't hold it. My chest tightened. Breathing became difficult. Whoa, this couldn't be right. It had to be some kind of mistake, confusion from an elderly person, maybe dementia. But the handwriting was too steady, the words too specific. And that box was hidden for a reason. I took a deep breath and picked up the letter again. Helena then revealed who my biological mother was. Her name was Sophia. Helena's only daughter. A woman I never met, never heard of, never saw in family photographs. Helena wrote. Sophia was special. Creative, kind, full of life. She loved you from the moment she knew she was pregnant. She prepared a room for you, chose your name so carefully. And then, when you were only 6 months old, she passed away. Helena didn't go into many details, but what little she wrote was devastating. Sophia died in a car accident. She was coming back from a friend's house. It was sudden, unexpected. No one had time to prepare. And in the midst of the emotional chaos that followed, decisions were made. Decisions about who would take care of me, about how my life would be shaped, about which truths I deserved to know. Helena wrote about the months following Sophia's death. She wanted to raise me. She believed that, as my grandmother, she had the right to have me. But there were complications. My father, who had just lost his wife, was devastated. His family intervened. They argued that Helena was too old, that I needed a young mother figure. And then my father remarried. To the woman I spent my entire life calling Mom. A good woman. A loving mother. But not my biological mother. Helena explained that, at the time, there was a family meeting without her. A consensus was reached. It was better for me to grow up believing I had a normal family. Without complications. Without the weight of loss at the beginning of life. And Helena was convinced or forced to step away. They said it would be temporary, she wrote. That when you were older they would tell you. But the years passed. And the silence became the new truth. I walked down those attic stairs holding the letter as if it were a bomb about to explode. My head was spinning with 1,000 questions. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. I needed answers. And I wanted them now. I found my dad in the living room watching TV. A normal Saturday afternoon scene. But when I walked in holding that yellowed envelope, I saw his face change. From relaxed to alert. From alert to pale. From pale to fear. Where did you find that? That was the first thing he said. Not what is that? Not where did that come from? He knew exactly what it was. He took the letter from my hands. Read the signature. Closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again there were tears. And then he sat down. Without saying a word. He placed the letter on the coffee table, as if it burned in his hands. The silence in the room was deafening. Dad, I need you to tell me everything. Now. He took a deep breath. Ran his hands over his face. Looked at the window, avoiding my gaze. I knew this day would come. I just hoped I'd have more time to find the right words. You've had 32 years. He started from the beginning. He confirmed everything Helena had written. My biological mother, Sophia, really did die in an accident when I was 6 months old. It was devastating for everyone. He described what Sophia was like, exactly as Helena had written. Creative, artistic, passionate about life. A mother who daydreamed about my future. She loved you in a way I can't even describe, he said. My dad explained his state after the accident. He wasn't well. Deep depression. Unable to take care of himself, let alone a baby. His family intervened not out of malice but out of desperation. Helena wanted to raise you, he admitted. But she and Sophia had a complicated relationship. There were old hurts. And my family thought you deserved to start from scratch, without carrying those wounds. He told me how he met my mom, the woman who raised me, 2 years after the accident. She was a family friend, caring, patient. And when they got married, she adopted me not just legally, but with her heart. She loves you, my dad said with conviction. That was never a lie. And she always knew the truth. It was always hard for her too, knowing that one day you would find out. But why didn't you ever tell me? The silence was heavy. Because the more time passed, the harder it became. First, you were too young to understand. Then, you started calling her mom and it seemed so natural. It's alright. We were afraid of hurting you. Of you feeling deceived. Of losing your trust. And then the silence became a habit. A cowardly habit. Asked about Helena. Why did she completely distance herself? My dad hesitated before answering. She didn't distance herself by choice. We cut off contact. We thought it would be easier for you to grow up without the confusion of 2 grandmothers, without questions about the past. But Helena never gave up on you. She sent letters asking about you. Sent presents for your birthday that we never gave you. Until eventually she stopped trying. We failed you, my dad finally said, his voice breaking. And we failed Helena. And Sophia's memory. There's no justification. There's fear. And the illusion that we were protecting you when, in fact, we were robbing you of your own history. I didn't know what to feel. Anger. Betrayal. Definitely. But also a strange understanding. Because looking at my dad, a man who had lost his young wife, who raised a daughter in the midst of emotional chaos, I saw that he too was a victim of this tragedy. He made wrong decisions. But not out of cruelty. Out of desperation. Is Helena still alive? My dad shook his head slowly. She passed away 3 years ago. Your mom, the one who raised you, went to the funeral. Alone. She never told me. 3 years. I had been so close to being able to meet her. In the following days, I couldn't stop thinking about Helena. A woman who loved me from a distance. Who was erased from my life as if she had never existed. Who died without ever really knowing me. I needed to go to where she lived. Learn about her last days. Understand who she really was. Even if it was too late. Helena's house was 3 hours away. A small town in the countryside where she spent her last years. During the entire trip, I imagined what it would be like. If there were neighbors who knew her. If anything of her remained in that place. And I wondered what would have been different if I had known her. If my life would be different. If I would be different. When I arrived at the address, I found a simple, well-kept house with a small garden in front. But it was empty. For sale. For a moment I stood there looking at that house. Trying to feel some connection. Some echo of the woman who lived there. But there was only silence. An elderly lady came out of the house next door. She watched me for a moment before asking if I was looking for someone. I'm looking for information about Helena. The woman who lived here. The neighbor's face lit up with a sad smile. Helena. What a special woman. Are you family? Yes. I'm her granddaughter. The neighbor, Miss Marta, invited me in. Made coffee. And started telling me about Helena. She was quiet, Marta said. But kind. Always taking care of the garden, feeding the birds. She painted, you know. Beautiful watercolors. She said she learned it from her daughter. From Sophia. She talked about you, Marta revealed, and my heart jumped. Not much. But sometimes when we saw children playing in the street, she would comment, "My granddaughter must be this age now." Or, "I wonder if she likes to read like me." Once she showed me a photo of you. From high school graduation, I think. She had pride in her eyes. But also deep sadness. Marta then went to a cabinet and took out a small box. Before she passed away, Helena gave me this. She said that if a young woman ever showed up looking for her, I should give it to her. Inside, another envelope. newer than the first, and with my name written on it again. She knew, I whispered. She knew I would come. I sat on Marta's couch. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. And when I started reading, it was as if Helena was there, talking to me. My dear granddaughter, if you're reading this, it means you found my first letter. And that you came looking for me. Thank you for not forgetting me, even though you never knew me. I lived every year wondering how you were. If you were happy, if you were healthy, if you had friends, if you laughed often, if you dreamed big. I watched you grow through photos that I got with great effort, through stories that reached me through winding paths. Every little bit of information about you was a treasure I kept in my heart. I never held you in my arms, never gave you a goodnight kiss, never heard you call me grandma, but I loved you. Oh, how I loved you. I don't hold a grudge against the family that kept me away from you. Pain makes people make decisions they think are right at the time. Your father lost the love of his life. Your mom, the one who raised you, loved you as if you were hers. And you grew up loved. That's what matters. But I hope that, reading this, you understand that there was more love around you than you ever knew. Imperfect love. Distant love. But true love. Now let me tell you about your mother. About Sophia. She was an artist. Painter. Not professionally, she worked as an art teacher for children. But she had a pure artist's soul. She loved music. She played guitar and sang to the plants, believing it made them grow happier. She had a contagious laugh. And when she found out she was pregnant, oh, you should have seen her eyes. Sophia prepared your room with such dedication. She painted murals on the walls, trees, birds, stars. She said she wanted you to grow up surrounded by beauty. She chose your name because it meant gift from God. To her, you were a miracle. In the last months of pregnancy, she wrote letters to you. Letters she planned to give you when you grew up. Letters about her dreams for you, advice, memories of herself. Those letters were lost in the chaos after the accident. No one knows where they are. The accident happened on a cold winter night. Sophia was coming back from a friend's house. There was ice on the road. The car skidded. It was quick. She didn't suffer, the doctors said. Too small a consolation. You were 6 months old. Sleeping at home, safe in your father's arms. You didn't know your mother wouldn't come home. I'm not writing this to sadden you. I'm writing so you know, you came from love. Pure, intense, true love. And wherever I am now, I continue to love you. I continue to be proud of you. I continue to root for your every step. Live well, my granddaughter. Live fully. And when you have your own children, tell them about Sophia. About the artist who would love them too. About the love that crosses generations, even when interrupted by tragedy. With all my eternal love, Grandma Helena. I finished reading and couldn't hold it in. I cried there, in Miss Marta's living room. I cried for the mother I never knew. For the grandmother who loved me from afar. For all the conversations we never had. But I also cried with relief. Because finally I knew the truth. Miss Marta sat next to me, in respectful silence, until I composed myself. Was Helena happy? Finally asked. Marta thought for a moment. Happy? I don't know if that's the right word. But she had peace. In her last years, she made peace with herself. She painted a lot. Took care of the garden. Donated to children's charities. And always had hope that you would come. She left something else for you, Marta said. I was keeping it. She took me to a small room in the back. And there, leaning against the wall, were paintings covered with sheets. When I saw them, they were watercolors. Dozens of them. And all of them were about me. Not realistic paintings, she never saw me grow up. But imaginary representations. A girl flying a kite. Teenager reading under a tree. A young woman looking at the horizon. In each painting, the same signature in the corner. For my granddaughter with love. Helena. She wanted you to have them, Marta said softly. All of this is yours. I looked at those paintings, a lifetime of love expressed through art. And I understood that Helena found a way to be present, even in absence. Thank you, was all I could say. I drove back home with the car full of paintings, and my heart full of conflicting feelings. Anger at being deceived, gratitude for being loved, sadness for the loss, hope for reconciliation with my own story. But above all, understanding. When I got home, my mom, the woman who raised me, was waiting. My dad had told her everything, and she was terrified that I would reject her, that I would stop calling her mom. But when I looked at her, at the woman who was there for every birthday, every scraped knee, every nightmare, hugged her. "You are my mother," I said. "Sophia gave me life. But you gave me childhood, adolescence, unconditional love. You were there. I just wish you had told me earlier, that I could have known Helena. But I understand why you didn't. And I forgive you." That night, my mom told me everything she knew about Sophia. Stories she herself had heard from my dad. The way Sophia laughed. The songs she sang. How she decorated my baby room. "She would love you so much," my mom said. "And I know that, wherever she is, she's grateful that I took care of you." In the following days, I started processing everything. I had two grandmothers who loved me. One present, one from a distance. I had two mothers. One who gave me life, one who raised me. And instead of choosing between them, I decided to honor both. I transformed a corner of my house into a memory space. I hung Helena's watercolors. I placed both letters in frames. And a photo I found of Sophia, the only one left, holding me as a baby, looking at me with infinite love. Now, every time I look at that corner, I see my complete story. Not just what I lived, but what came before me. Through research, I discovered that Helena had a sister still alive. My great-aunt, who never knew I existed. When we met, she cried. And she showed me more photos of Sophia. Told me stories of her childhood. Gave me a sketchbook that Sophia made when she was a child. My family expanded. And with it, my understanding of who I am. I started practicing art, something I had never done before. I'm not as talented as Sophia was. But each brushstroke is a way to connect with her. It's funny how genetics work. I discovered I have a knack for watercolors. Exactly what Helena and Sophia did. Maybe they're with me in ways I didn't even realize. So, what did I learn from all this? I learned that families are complicated. That love can exist even in absence. That truth hurts, but lies corrode. I learned that I can love the mother who raised me without diminishing the love for the mother who gave me life. That I can honor Helena's memory without disrespecting the grandmother I knew. And I learned that my identity is not defined only by who was present, but also by who loved me from afar. If you're going through something similar, discoveries about your family, buried secrets, know that it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to cry. But also, try to find compassion. People hide truths not because they're bad, but because they're human. They're imperfect. And the truth, when it finally comes out, can be liberating. Today, almost a year after finding that first letter, I can say, I am grateful. Grateful for having discovered. Grateful for the love I received from all sides, even when I didn't know it. Grateful for the journey, however painful it was. 'Cause now I know who I am. Completely. Sometimes secrets aren't kept to hurt. They're kept out of fear of hurting. But the truth always finds a way. And when it does, it can change everything. That letter changed my life. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. This is my story. A story of loss, love, secrets, and healing. If you have secrets in your family, maybe it's time to unearth them. Not to destroy, but to free. And if you're someone who keeps secrets, remember, the truth, even painful, is a gift. A gift that allows people to know themselves completely. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story touched your heart, leave a like. And if you have a similar story, family secrets, late discoveries, share it in the comments. Let's create a community where no one feels alone in these moments. And remember, no matter what you discover about your past, you're still you, just a little more complete. See you in the next video.